Okay.
Welcome, YouTube, to a review we've decided to do on Gmod Tower.
For those who aren't immediately aware of what Gmod Tower is, it's basically got nothing to do with general Gmod, despite it's got Gmod in the name. It does run into Gmod game mode, though, but the premise as a base is quite simple.
You run around doing achievements and playing mini-games in order to earn a virtual currency called GMC.
And don't worry, you don't buy GMC with real money. That's bannable.
To purchase player models, hats, and items for your private room, or items for a couple of mini-games, simply to encourage you to play them even more.
For reference, we all enjoyed Gmod Tower enough, and we all have the so-called donor status.
Speaking of minigames, though, let's start off with them.
As you can see, GM Tower are extremely proud of, and they are being as blunt as possible here, their game mode ports. Although personally I'd be hesitant to call them ports, considering most of them are, and intendedly so, rather unique.
At the time of recording, there are 7 playable game modes, with a further 5 being developed or concepted. First of all, we're going to begin with the one we admittedly haven't played altogether too much of, for a reason: Source Cards.
Now, Source Cards isn't exactly a bad game mode per se, but it's certainly one of the more infuriating for anyone outside of the US, which is, unfortunately, all 3 of us.
All 3 of us have actually tried to play a bit of Source Cards. Me and Eric have done it together, and Alf has done it on his own. But none of us could really get into it or enjoyed it at all, because the lag affects it so much that it makes the cards feel incredibly more floaty than they actually are. If you don't know how floaty it is, it feels floatier than Wipeout, where the vehicles literally float.
We've been hearing nothing but positive reports from those in the US, so keep that in mind when you're making your own judgment.
But if you want to try this from abroad at all, our advice is don't.
Next game mode on the list is Ultimate Chimera Hunt, which unfortunately is also somewhat of a game mode where lag creates a noticeable impact on the game, but it's not nearly as bad.
We managed to get quite a bit of gameplay out of it, despite the button outright refusing to press at times, or being chomped while we're behind the Chimera, or having our buttons pressed while we chomp someone in front of us, or just a guy who single-handedly clears the Chimera in under 5 seconds.
You still get a number of fun moments out of it regardless.
And it's definitely worth playing at least a few games of this to get a proper feel of it.
Be sure to keep an eye out for playing of shitboxes, though. It is a legit complaint, I agree with them, but really just spamming the chat with it isn't going to help anyone.
And then we've got Virus, where lag is noticeable but completely irrelevant. It's liked for the same reasons as hated, which lag has a very heavy hand in, keeping the round short and incredibly on edge the whole game.
It's verily and heavily in favour of the Virus team, and can snowball quite heavily, and you'll only occasionally see guys survive the onslaught of respawning neon flame zombies.
It's a game mode that can be described as short but sweet but fairly exciting.
It seems, though, that the game mode was balanced around the teams being equal, and some people really let that get them to them rather than enjoying the game as is. But on an increasingly less laggy note is PvP battle,
where players are pitched against one another using a variety of silly and serious weapons, ranging from a toy hammer with a hidden laser and the NES zapper, to the usual sniper rifles and machine guns.
And the stealth box.
While we're yammering on about how lag affects these games, it's worth mentioning that PvP actually does it quite well. It's noticeable if you look for it.
And you'll still get some corner cuttings with melee weapons.
Sod. But mostly it won't affect your gameplay at all. What will affect your gameplay is the grenade launcher. The secondary fire it's just overpowered. I can't put it in a way that doesn't sound like bitching.
The primary fire is a slow-firing, slow-reloading weapon that only has 4 shots in a clip, and you only spawn with 8 shots total. And your shots do delayed damage even if you directly hit an enemy with them. But it boasts 1 hit and kills if your enemy is close enough to the grave when it goes kaboom.
Secondary fire, on the other hand, it's pretty much the same thing, except it sticks to thing. So think, it's like a TF2 sticky bomb launcher, not as that bad. But if you get a direct hit, and your enemy will die no matter what. But if you shoot the floor and enemy runs over it, unlike the TF2 sticky bomb launcher, it sticks to them. So basically, even though they missed, you still get one-shotted despite them missing, which is totally unfair.
The downside is that it costs 3,000 GMC, which is the highest cost for any weapon in PvP.
In any PvP type game, money or time playing should not equal power. Everybody should be on the same field regardless of how long they're playing.
But otherwise, the PvP game mode is a very fun, exciting for most of us. And if nothing else, you'll get better at aiming.
That said, avoid the small-edged, tight corridored roof of shards that Mech and I dislike.
And you might want to stay away from the really tiny arena that is Pit. Eric hates it, but I love it because it's just mad.
Is corridor a word?
Furthering that, we have a game mode where the lag is near unnoticeable.
I promise we'll stop talking about that now.
It's Zombie Massacre. It's basically a top-down shoot-'em-up where you, other players, and wave after wave of zombies.
Imagine a cross between Left 4 Dead and Alien Swarm.
You spawn in as something that looks like Buzz Lightyear before changing to your actual player model, and then run around with a pistol shooting down zombies in the hopes of getting another weapon.
Most of the zombies are little more than cannon fodder for the most part. And you can shoot them down with, I'd like to say magazines here, but you have unlimited ammo with the starting pistol. A few bullets to the brain, and they're dead. It's also got the benefit of racking up your combo meter, allowing you to use one of your two special abilities, while the other just recharges over time.
Take special note with your self-recharging one though. The speed it charges at the start of the first round is way higher than after using it. But the things you plop down last long enough to mostly counteract that without it being too powerful.
The charge meter does stick, but it also charges between levels, which is only noticeable if you used it absolute last minute.
And for a zombie apocalypse deal, they have a strange idea of bosses. Depending on the level you pick, one is a giant spider.
And the other is a fucking T-Rex.
Next on the list is minigolf, one of my favourites. Almost completely inverted to real-life minigolf. Rather than just whacking a ball around randomly and hoping that it gets somewhere near the hole, minigolf in Gmod Tower requires a bit of shock horror calculation with the math.
Your ball direction and speed aren't made immediately clear to you. The indicator for the ball only shows about a third of how far your ball is going, and only on the flat surface. If it's up or downhill, it's anybody's guess.
Less calculations and more luck then. That explains Alfie's unusual set of runs.
Minigolf's customization limits itself at just your ball colour, but it has an amusing little quirk about it. Depending on what hats and mists you're wearing, your ball will wear them as well. So if you've got a top hat, you've suddenly got a fancy-ass ball.
Then finally, ball race is considerably more simple. You hold forward, you run off the map, you respawn and complain that it was lag's fault.
True facts.
Or, you can attempt to navigate the level properly and develop a fetish for humping the bumpers once you check the achievement list.
Sorry. Skyward is the first people will play, and rightfully so, as unlike the other minigames, War Race has a tiered sit list of levels. The higher it is, the easier it is. I think Minigolf has that as well. Anyway, Skyward is right at the top of the list, as it's basically the tutorial level. Complete with... Sorry. Signpost saying that you can use WASD to move! Such helpfulness! And you can only get there after you've moved towards it. Nice job, lads.
Last World is second on the list, and is somewhat harder but not much longer than you could expect. But it is worth noting that next on the list, Paradise, is a bit of an anomaly. It's considerably easier than Grass World, arguably easier than Sky World, but purely for the fact it's longer, it's put lower on the list.
You may want to play Paradise a bit to practice before you go on to Grass World, oddly enough.
We're just going to take a step away from the mini-games, for once. I'm going to take you to where we start. The lobby.
The lobby is technically only the area where the fountain is, and indeed you should head to the fountain if you're told to go to the lobby. But I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, most players will argue that the lobby also encompasses the large entertainment plaza right next to it, where all the various stores are for you to buy player models, hats, and items for your suite, both interactive and not.
On the opposite side of the train station is where the pool, which is basically just a body of water, so screw that, and where the travelling merchant is.
The travelling merchant sells a few unique items, so it's worth checking out his list as well.
He's got a NES guitar. No, it's a Famicom guitar.
Turning immediately left from the train station once you hit the lobby, though, is the theatre. A giant YouTube screen for people to watch Mad Mall, Call of Duty montages and other such content.
No doubt those are going to get downvoted off quickly, but if you really want to watch that, and if you do, then you're an idiot. But if you want to watch them without getting them downvoted, you can buy your own TV for your suite.
The theatre does also allow anyone to submit and vote away videos appropriately.
The voting away system works on a 2/3 system though, so bring some friends to get those pesky videos off.
At the end of the entertainment plaza, up the stairs, are two very important rooms, games and booze.
Turning left into the arcade allows you to access to numerous flash games right in the comfort of your Gmod game, most of which are incredibly good and fun and a good time waster. They've even got Doom in there.
You can also go down a floor and play some Tetris, don't, or tic-tac-toe, or down another floor to play trivia.
Trivia and tic-tac-toe both rely on multiple players to play head-to-head, and you can't just challenge yourself, sadly. Tetris, meanwhile, is a single-player game that would advise you to stay away from, because how it works, it's completely server-side. Unlike being in a little window like all the other Flash games, this is actually rendered in the server, so it's affected by lag, like everything else.
More so, since it doesn't account for lag at all, it makes it difficult, if not impossible, for those outside the US to get more than a few hundred points.
Meanwhile, on the opposite side, turning right instead, that's where the booze lives.
Alcohol costs GMC, which you can earn from playing Tetris and trivia, so it's not altogether too uncommon to see people running from one side to the other, more than slightly inebriated, simply to drink more booze.
More fun to watch once you realize that alcohol poisoning is a thing in GMT. And people will occasionally just drop dead in the middle of a game of Tetris.
Yay!
Next on the list on the upper floor is where you can make, or far more likely break, your cash flow. There's even an achievement for getting 10 jackpots. Good luck.
In the casino, there's also a person you could buy dueling items from, allowing you to challenge another player for some glorious GMC.
The items cost GMC, and you can challenge other players for a custom amount of GMC.
Naught is a valid number for this if you just want to mess around, but you do still pay for the dueling items.
Your dueling options include the likes of magnums, assault rifles, sniper rifles, and giant fists.
Finally on the major features list is the most loved for no other reason than everyone is veins: sweets.
As we've mentioned, you can buy items for your suite, some purely decorative and some with function, like the Famicom guitar from earlier, from the various stores in the plaza and the travelling merchant.
When you first log into GMT, you get a suite with a radio, TV cabinet, and a trunk to store some items in.
You can get a backpack to remotely access your trunk, but why do that when you can get a jetpack? Items that have functions include a playable piano and the previously mentioned Famicom guitar. Your suite is also where you can store trophies that you get from a few achievements, and one of which is jumping 200,000 times. It's clearly not grindy.
Yeah, but I suppose it's a reason to come back to GMT on a regular basis, since you would get it eventually if you're not a VIP who makes heavy use of the unlimited version of the jetpack.
VIPs also get unlimited beer. That makes it worth a donating alone.
Our best use of the suite so far includes putting a bunch of Obama cutouts over the entrance to block people getting in, and then throwing a party so people try desperately, but uselessly, to get in.
Hilarity ensues.
There is also a hat cupboard, and your bed, if you got one, clears the effects of booze. Yay for glorious sleep.
One final note is the achievements you can get on the GMT. These achievements are entirely server-side like most of GMT.
Which means they're cheating you. Sorry.
And a few of them are simply commemorative. You did a certain task, got a certain score.
Like wearing a hat while playing Fancy Pants Adventure. While others are just rewards for coming back repeatedly, as they're things you're naturally going to get over a given period of time of playing.
Some of them are perhaps a bit too grindy though.
Just a bit.
All in all, you can see GMT has its fair share of flaws, bugs, and issues.
Regrettably, most of them are basically unfixable, or more difficult to fix than it's worth it, like the lag issue. But regardless, GMT has certainly proved to us that despite those irritations, it's fucking brilliant.
You may get irritated at UCH rounds ending quickly, or ending up on memories the first time you play Ball Race, so just go play again, and hope things turn out better, because they probably will. And the second time round will more than make up for things going awry the first time.
So grab some friends, grab a seat, log on and have fun. We really recommend it.
With that said, thanks for watching YouTube, and as always we hope you enjoyed it, and we hope to see you guys next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.